Deho remained standing, his jaw set in stubborn resistance. If you're planning to lecture me about political correctness, save your breath. I've served this colony loyally while you were playing in your laboratory. Jiwoo studied the man, whom had arrested him just weeks earlier, seeing not just personal prejudice, but a systemic problem that plagued human societies across the galaxy. The crystal beacon pulsed gently, reminding him that this moment was being observed by civilizations whose own histories included similar struggles with discrimination and social evolution. Your service record shows dedication, Jiwoo acknowledged, pulling up Deho's personnel file on his desk display, 8 years of patrol duty. Numerous commendations for maintaining order during the early settlement period, but it also shows a pattern of disproportionate enforcement actions against non-Korean colonists. Chief Administrator Choi cleared his throat uncomfortably. The statistics were undeniable. Deho had made 3 times as many arrests in diverse residential sectors compared to predominantly Korean areas, despite crime rates being virtually identical across all districts. I enforce the law equally. Deho protested, though his voice lacked conviction. Jiwoo stood and walked to the office windows, which offered a panoramic view of New Seoul colony stretching toward the horizon. Biodomes and residential towers reflected the light of the twin suns, creating a tapestry of human achievement on an alien world. Every structure represented cooperation between different cultures and backgrounds. Yet prejudice still threatened to undermine their shared success. Kim Deho, the governor said formally, turning back to face the officer, "Your employment with Colonial Security is terminated, effective immediately. Your actions have demonstrated that you cannot serve all colonists with equal protection and respect." Deho's face flushed with anger and humiliation. "You can't do this. I have rights, procedures to follow, appeals to file. The termination is legal and final," Choi interjected, sliding official documents across the desk. "Your pension and benefits will be honored according to colonial law. You have until the end of the week to clear out your equipment and turn in your badge." As Deho stormed out of the office, Jiwoo felt no satisfaction in the confrontation. Justice was not about punishment or revenge, but about creating systems that protected everyone equally. The former officer's dismissal would send a clear message throughout the colony that discrimination had no place in their society's future. That evening, as the twin sun set behind Kepler-4 to B's mountain ranges, Kim Deho cleaned out his security locker for the final time. His fellow officers watched silently as he packed 8 years of service into a small carrying case. Some felt sympathy for his situation, while others recognized that change was necessary for their community's continued growth. Outside the security building, Deho paused to look up at the darkening sky. 3 brilliant lights appeared among the stars, growing larger and brighter with each passing second. Other colonists emerged from buildings throughout New Seoul, pointing and gasping as the lights resolved into massive spacecraft descending through the atmosphere. The alien vessels were beautiful beyond human imagination, their crystalline hulls catching and refracting the last rays of sunlight into prismatic rainbows that painted the sky in impossible colors. They moved with graceful precision, clearly demonstrating technology far beyond anything humanity had achieved. Governor Park Ji-woo stood on the balcony of his office, watching as the ships took positions above the colony. The crystal beacon in his hand pulsed with complex patterns of light, translating a message from Ambassador Vix. "First contact begins now. Show them the future you have chosen." As crowds gathered in Central Plaza to witness humanity's introduction to galactic civilization, Ji-woo understood that his species had passed its first test. They had chosen leaders who valued justice over prejudice, inclusion over exclusion, and hope over fear. The stars were no longer distant lights in an empty sky, but stepping stones to a future where humanity would take its place among the greatest civilizations in the galaxy. Kim Dae-ho drove away from the security building as the alien ships revealed themselves to his world, carrying with him the bitter knowledge that his prejudice had cost him not just his job, but his chance to witness humanity's greatest moment. Justice had been served, and the stars welcomed those who proved themselves worthy of their light. The end. Outside the building, thousands of colonists had gathered in Central Plaza, their cheers echoing off the biodome structures whenever another district reported overwhelming support for their new governor. All families from every corner of the galaxy's first Korean colony celebrated together, children waving homemade banners while their parents embraced with tears of joy high above the celebration. The three Keth observation vessels had been joined by a much larger craft, the Alliance Diplomatic. Ship stretched nearly a kilometer in length, its crystalline hull reflecting the twin moonlight like a floating cathedral. Inside the massive vessel, representatives from dozens of alien civilizations watched the election results with keen interest. Ambassador Vex stood in the ship's central observation deck, surrounded by holographic displays showing election data from across the colony. Beside him, Council member Julnar of the aquatic hydro species flowed within her environmental suit, her tentacles dancing with what humans might recognize as approval. The human's victory exceeds all projections. Julnara communicated through bioelectric pulses that the translation systems converted to audible speech. Their species demonstrates remarkable capacity for social evolution when presented with proper leadership. Down in the election center, Jiwoo's campaign team prepared for his victory speech. The main auditorium overflowed with supporters, forcing organizers to set up overflow areas with live video feeds. As Jiwoo approached the podium, the crowd's energy reached a crescendo that seemed to shake the building's foundations. "My fellow colonists," Jiwoo began, his voice carrying clearly through the sound system, "tonight, we have chosen unity over division, progress over stagnation, and hope over fear. This victory belongs to every single person who believed that. Our differences make us stronger, not weaker." The crowd erupted in applause, but Jiwoo raised his hand for continued attention. His next words had been carefully chosen, guided by subtle communications from the crystal beacon that now pulsed gently in his pocket. "We built this colony by reaching beyond the limits of what seemed possible. We transformed the dead world into a living paradise through science, cooperation, and determination. But our journey is far from over. Tonight, I promise you new horizons that will challenge everything we thought we knew about our place in the universe, in the colony security headquarters." Officer Kim Dae-ho watched the victory speech with growing anger. His preferred candidate, the incumbent Governor Yoon Tae-jin, had suffered a humiliating defeat that left the old guard's political machine in ruins. Worse, exit polls showed that even many Korean colonists had voted for Jiwoo, abandoning the ethnic solidarity that Dae-ho believed should define their community. "This changes everything," Dae-ho muttered to his partner Cho Min-seok. "The outsiders have taken control. Mark my words. Within a year this colony will be unrecognizable." Cho shifted uncomfortably in his chair. The election results had made him question his own assumptions about their community. Maybe change isn't necessarily bad. Dr. Park's scientific work made this whole colony possible. Dae-ho's response was cut short by an emergency communication from the colony's perimeter sensors. 3 massive objects had appeared in orbit round Kepler-4 to be, their energy signatures unlike anything in human databases. The security department's quantum communicators crackled with reports from observation posts across the planet. Meanwhile, Jiwoo concluded his victory speech and retreated to a private room beneath the election center. The crystal beacon in his pocket now glowed with urgent intensity. its alien harmonics creating a subtle vibration that seemed to resonate through his bones. The air in front of him shimmered. And Vex materialized with the same graceful movement Jiwoo remembered from their first encounter. But this time, the alien was not alone. Two other beings accompanied him. A crystalline entity that reflected light in impossible patterns, and a graceful creature with gossamer wings that seemed to bend space-time round its delicate form. Governor Park, Vex said, the title carrying a weight in the translation devices rendered Korean. Allow me to present council members Tekvor of the Silicon Collective and Essence Singer Lyrale of the Void Dancers. Tonight's victory has earned humanity its first formal introduction to the Stellar Alliance. Jiwoo felt the enormity of the moment pressing down on him like the gravity of a neutron star. You were testing us through this election. Testing, evaluating, hoping, Lyrale sang, her voice creating harmonies that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. Your species has shown remarkable progress in a very short time. The prejudices that nearly disqualified humanity are being overcome by leaders like yourself. Tekvor's crystalline form pulsed with colors that had no human names. 47 worlds await humanity's addition to our confederation. But this honor comes with responsibilities that extend far beyond your single colony. Vex activated a holographic display that showed the entire galaxy. Its spiral arms dotted with countless civilizations. Earth and all its colonies will be invited to join us, but only if they can prove they have evolved beyond the destructive patterns that plague younger species. Your election represents the first successful test. Jiwoo studied the galactic map, understanding that his victory speech had been broadcast not just to his colonists, but to alien civilizations across the stars. What happens next? Now you govern. Vex replied simply. You demonstrate that humanity can build inclusive societies, resolve conflicts peacefully, and contribute positively to galactic civilization. Every decision you make will be observed, every policy evaluated, every crisis a test of your species' worthiness through the election center's windows. Jiwoo could see his supporters still celebrating in the plaza below. They had no idea that their votes had just determined humanity's future among the stars. The weight of an entire species' destiny now rested on his shoulders. And his first major decision as governor would determine whether that future included the wonders of galactic citizenship or theirs. Olation of cosmic solitude dot the twin moons continued their eternal dance above New Soul Colony, but now they shared the sky with ships from distant worlds, carrying hopes and expectations that would reshape human civilization forever. Governor Park Jiwoo's first morning in office began before dawn in the executive suite of the Colonial Administration Building. The crystal beacon from Vex sat quietly on his desk, its soft glow serving as a constant reminder of the cosmic responsibilities that now rested on his shoulders. Today would mark the beginning of humanity's most important transformation, starting with the painful but necessary work of reform. Chief Administrator Choi Minho arrived precisely at 8 o'clock, carrying a stack of personnel, files, and legal documents. At 45, Choi had served the colony faithfully for over a decade, witnessing both its greatest triumphs and its most troubling failures. His weathered face showed the strain of recent weeks. Knowing that significant changes were coming to their small corner of the galaxy, Governor, the security force restructuring orders are ready for your signature, Choi said, placing the documents on Jiwoo's desk. The new training protocols emphasize de-escalation, cultural sensitivity, and equal protection for all colonists regardless of their Earth origins. Jiwoo reviewed each page carefully, understanding that these reforms would serve as a model for human colonies across the galaxy. The alien observers would judge humanity's worthiness for galactic citizenship based on how well they could overcome their own prejudices and build truly inclusive societies. Schedule Officer Kim Dae-ho to meet with me this afternoon, Ji-woo instructed. This conversation needs to happen face-to-face. Meanwhile, across the colony in the security headquarters, Kim Dae-ho sensed that his world was about to change forever. His fellow officers had been unusually quiet all morning, and several had received calls about mandatory retraining programs and policy updates. The administrative assistant's nervous glances toward his desk suggested that his name appeared prominently on the new governor's agenda. High above the colony, the massive Stellar Alliance diplomatic ship continued its silent orbit. Inside the vessel's central command center, Ambassador Vex monitored human communication networks with growing satisfaction. Social media posts showed colonists expressing optimism about their new leadership, while news feeds reported decreasing tensions between different ethnic communities. The restructuring process appears to be proceeding smoothly, Vex reported to the Alliance Council through quantum communication links. This human leader demonstrates the decisive action necessary for effective reform while maintaining social stability. At 3 o'clock that afternoon, Officer Kim Dae-ho walked into the governor's office with a mixture of defiance and dread. He had spent 8 years building his career in colonial security, rising through the ranks based on what he believed was dedicated service to his community. Now, he faced a leader whose very existence challenged everything Dae-ho thought he understood about their society. Officer Kim, Governor Park said, gesturing to a chair across from his desk, "Please sit. Chief Administrator Choi will witness our discussion." Evaluating, Vex corrected. Today's incident with Officer Kim Dae-ho was not planned, but it provided valuable data. Our species treats its own members, particularly those who are different. Reveals much about their character, your response to injustice, your commitment to peaceful resolution despite personal cost. These qualities mark you as exceptional among your people. The alien's translation device projected new images showing various human colonies across the galaxy. Some thrived with diverse populations working together, while others struggled with internal divisions. We have identified potential leaders on each world, individuals whose actions suggest they could guide humanity toward galactic citizenship. Ji-woo felt the weight of implication settling on his shoulders. You want me to become a leader? We want you to become what you already are, Vex replied, a bridge between scientific advancement and moral progress. Your colony's upcoming gubernatorial election provides an opportunity to demonstrate these qualities on a larger scale. The alien produced a small crystalline device, no larger than Ji-woo's thumb. This communication beacon will allow contact when needed. Share this knowledge with no one yet. Humanity's introduction to the galactic community must happen at the proper time, under proper leadership. As Vex prepared to leave, Ji-woo called out, "What happens if we fail your evaluation?" The alien paused at the laboratory door. "Then humanity continues its journey alone, as it has for millennia. But we believe your species has the potential for something far greater. The choice, as always, remains yours." With that, Vex simply vanished, leaving behind only the faint scent of ozone and the small crystal beacon glowing softly on Ji-woo's workstation. Outside, the twin moons continued their eternal dance. But now Ji-woo knew that other eyes watched from the darkness between stars, 3 weeks after his encounter with Vex. Dr. Park Ji-woo stood before a crowd of 500 colonists in the New Seoul Community Center. His decision to run for a colonial governor had shocked the political establishment, but his message resonated with settlers who felt forgotten by the current administration. The crystal beacon from Vex remained hidden in his laboratory, pulsing softly with an otherworldly light whenever important decisions needed to be made. "My fellow colonists," Ji-woo began, his voice carrying across the packed auditorium, "we built this world together. Korean hands, African minds, Latin American hearts, and European dreams all contributed to making Kepler-4 to be our home. Yet our current leadership treats some of us as second-class citizens. In the back of the room, Lee So-young watched the crowd's reaction with satisfaction at 29. She was the youngest campaign manager in colonial history, but her strategic mind had already transformed Jiwoo's grassroots movement into a serious political force. Her tablet displayed real-time polling data that seemed almost too good to be true. Support for Jiwoo was growing at an unprecedented rate. What So-young didn't know was that her communication networks were being subtly enhanced by alien technology. Messages reached supporters with perfect timing. Funding appeared from anonymous donors at crucial moments, and opposition research seemed to fall into her lap like gifts from the cosmos. The Stellar Alliance was keeping its promise of subtle guidance without direct interference. High above the colony, 3 Keth observation ships maintained their invisible watch. Captain Velmar studied the holographic displays showing human social patterns across New Seoul. The candidate's message is spreading beyond our calculations, she reported to her crew. Human social networks are more responsive than our models, predicted. Her science officer, Tis Cole, highlighted concerning data points on the tactical display. Captain, we are also detecting increased discriminatory incidents across the colony. Officer Kim Daeho's behavior is inspiring similar actions. Among other security personnel, down in the colony's security headquarters, Kim Daeho reviewed the day's patrol reports with growing frustration. Jiwoo's campaign had emboldened what Daeho saw as troublemakers throughout the settlement. Protesters gathered daily, demanding equal access to colony resources. Worse, they were filming security responses and broadcasting them across the colonial networks. These outsiders think they can change everything we built, Daeho muttered to his partner, Officer Cho Min-seok. They sat in their patrol hover car outside the residential District 7, an area predominantly settled by Earth African and South American colonists. My father helped establish this colony. My family sacrificed everything to make this place safe and prosperous, Cho nodded. Though he felt increasingly uncomfortable with Daeho's rhetoric, maybe we should focus on actual crimes instead of peaceful protests. Daeho's jaw tightened. Political gatherings without proper permits are crimes. These people need to learn respect for authority. Unknown to both officers, microscopic recording drones hovered round their vehicle, documenting every conversation. The alien observers had identified Daeho as a prime example of the prejudices that could prevent humanity from joining the galactic community. Every discriminatory action, every biased decision, was carefully catalogued for the Stellar Alliance's evaluation. Meanwhile, Jiwoo's campaign headquarters buzzed with activity. The converted warehouse in the industrial district had become the heart of a movement that surprised even its organizers. Volunteers from every ethnic community worked side by side, their energy infectious and their dedication absolute. Lee So-young coordinated phone banks while monitoring news feeds from across the colony. Dr. Park. She called out, Channel 7 wants to interview you about your atmospheric research. They are saying some critics question whether a scientist can handle political leadership. Jiwoo smiled as he reviewed policy documents on his tablet. The crystal beacon had provided subtle insights into administrative challenges that would face the next governor. Somehow, he understood complex colonial economics and interplanetary trade agreements as if he had studied them for years. Schedule the interview, he replied. Let's show them that scientific thinking is exactly what good governance requires. We use evidence, test hypotheses, and adapt when we discover better solutions. Across the colony, Jiwoo's message resonated with settlers who had felt marginalized by the current administration. In the agricultural district, farmer Kim Yuna organized her neighbors to volunteer for the campaign. Her greenhouse domes produced food for thousands of colonists. Yet she had been denied upgrades to her irrigation systems because her sector was considered non-priority. Dr. Park understands that we all contribute to this colony's success, she told a gathering of agricultural workers. His scientific approach values evidence over prejudice, results over favoritism. In the medical district, Dr. Santos Rivera found himself agreeing with Jiwoo's healthcare proposals despite never having met the candidate. The emergency medicine specialist had treated patients from every community in the colony, and he had seen firsthand how resource allocation affected different populations. The alien observers noted these social connections with interest. Captain Vilnar updated her reports to the Stellar Alliance Council with growing optimism. Human social evolution appears to be accelerating under the right leadership. This candidate may represent their species' potential for a moral advancement. However, the Keth also documented troubling counter-movements. Officer Deho had begun organizing what he called colony security meetings, where like-minded individuals discussed their concerns about changing demographics and political leadership. These gatherings worried the alien observers, who recognized similar patterns from other species that had failed their evaluation for Alliance membership. As election day approached, two visions of humanity's future competed for dominance on New Sol Colony. One embraced diversity, scientific progress, and moral growth under Jiwoo's leadership. The other clung to prejudice, exclusion, and fear under the influence of individuals like Deho. The galaxy watched and waited to see which vision would prevail, knowing that humanity's fate among the stars hung in the balance of this single colonial election. The New Sol Colony Election Center buzzed with electric energy as holographic vote tallies updated. In real time across massive display screens, campaign workers, journalists, and citizens packed the converted warehouse, their voices creating a constant hum of anticipation. Dr. Park Jiwoo stood in a small side room, watching the numbers climb with a mixture of disbelief and growing responsibility. 78%. Lee So-young announced, her voice barely containing her excitement as she burst through the door. Jiwoo, you didn't just win. You created a landslide that will be remembered for generations. The twin sons of Kepler for to be cast long shadows across New Sol Colony as Officer Kim Dae-ho adjusted his energy baton and stepped out of his patrol hover car. The morning air carried the scent of blooming crystal flowers, genetically modified. Plants that helped terraform this distant world into humanity's first successful colony beyond Earth. But today, the peaceful streets buzzed with tension. Dae-ho had been a colonial security officer for 8 years, ever since the first wave of Korean settlers established the colony. He took pride in maintaining order among the 40,000 humans who now called this planet home. The colony's gleaming biodomes stretched toward the horizon, each one a testament to human ingenuity and determination. Yet lately, dissatisfaction had been growing among the diverse population. The protests had started 3 days ago, when the colonial administration announced new resource allocation policies, water recycling systems, atmospheric processes, and food production facilities would prioritize sectors based on population density and contribution metrics. Many settlers felt this unfairly favored the original Korean colonists over later arrivals from Africa, South America, and other regions of Earth. As Dae-ho walked through Central Plaza, he could hear the crowd before he saw them. Nearly 200 people had gathered around the colony memorial, a towering crystal structure that honored the first settlers who had died establishing the colony. Their voices carried across the plaza, demanding fair distribution of resources and equal representation in the colonial government. High above the crowd, invisible to human eyes, 3 sleek observation vessels maintained perfect hover positions. The ships were no larger than Earth automobiles, but contained technology beyond human understanding. Inside each craft, tall, graceful beings with luminescent blue skin monitored the scene below through advanced sensors. Their species, the Kef, had been observing human colonies for decades, cataloging behavior patterns and social dynamics. Captain Velnar of the lead observation ship spoke softly to her crew. Document everything. The Stellar Council needs complete records of how these humans handle internal conflicts. Her six-fingered hands danced across holographic controls, directing microscopic recording drones toward the gathering crowd. Down, in the plaza, Dr. Park Jiwoo stood near the memorial's base, his dark skin glistening with sweat under the alien suns. At 38, he was one of the colony's most respected scientists. His breakthrough research on atmospheric conversion had made large-scale terraforming possible, allowing humans to breathe freely on dozens of worlds. Yet, despite his contributions, he often faced subtle discrimination from some colonists who questioned his loyalty to the predominantly Korean settlement. Jiwoo held a simple sign reading "Equal Resources, Equal Future," and listened as other protesters shared their concerns. A young mother spoke about her children's school lacking proper air filtration. An elderly farmer described how his crop sector received outdated irrigation systems. The crowd remained peaceful, but their frustration was evident. Officer Daeho pushed through the crowd, his hand resting on his stun weapon. He had received orders to disperse the gathering, but something deeper motivated his actions. The sight of Jiwoo among the protesters triggered his prejudices in Daeho's mind. The scientist represented everything wrong with the colony's current direction. Too many outsiders, too many voices demanding change to the Korean established order. "This assembly is unlawful," Daeho announced, his voice amplified by his collar speaker. "Disperse immediately or face rest." The crowd looked confused. Their gathering permit was valid, and they had violated no colonial laws. Jiwoo stepped forward, holding up his data pad showing the proper documentation. "Officer, we have full authorization for this peaceful assembly," Jiwoo said calmly. "We're exercising our rights as colonial citizens." Daeho's jaw tightened. He had worked these streets for years, maintaining order among people who looked like him, spoke his language, and shared his cultural values. Now outsiders questioned the system he had sworn to protect. Above them, the alien observers focused their sensors on the confrontation. Captain Velnar noted the elevated stress patterns in both humans' biological readings. This moment would prove crucial for their assessment of human social evolution. "You're inciting rebellion against legitimate colonial authority," Daeho declared, stepping closer to Jiwoo. The scientists remained calm, but other protesters began recording the interaction with their personal devices. Without warning, Daeho grabbed Jiwoo's arm. "You're under arrest for disturbing the peace and seditious assembly." The charges were fabricated, but Daeho's authority allowed him to make arrests based on his judgment. Jiwoo didn't resist as energy restraints snapped round his wrists. The crowd erupted in shocked protests, but the scientist urged them to remain peaceful. "Document this," he told the recording devices. "Let truth speak for itself." As Daeho led Jiwoo toward his patrol vehicle, the alien observers completed their recordings. This single act of prejudice and abuse of power would have consequences far beyond what either human could imagine. The galaxy was watching, and humanity's future hung in the balance of how they treated their own people. The twin suns continued their slow arc across the alien sky, casting new shadows over a colony where justice and prejudice now stood in stark opposition. The detention center's heavy doors slid shut behind Dr. Park Jiwoo as he walked into the cool evening air of New Seoul Colony. 12 hours in a cramped cell had left him exhausted, but his mind remained sharp. The false charges against him had been dropped after Colony Administrator Lee Hyjin reviewed the protest footage. B. At the damage was done, Officer Kim Dae-ho's prejudice had been displayed for all to see. Jiwoo's laboratory stood 3 blocks away in the research district. A cluster of white buildings that housed the colony's most advanced scientific equipment. As he walked through the empty streets, the twin moons of Kepler-4 cast an eerie blue glow across the terraformed landscape. Bioluminescent street lights hummed softly, powered by the same atmospheric processes he had helped design years ago. The laboratory building recognized his biometric signature and opened its doors with a soft whisper. Jiwoo expected to find his workspace exactly as he had left it, filled with samples of alien plant life and atmospheric data from the colony's expansion zones. Instead, he froze at the threshold. A figure stood in the shadows near his main workstation. Impossibly tall and graceful, the being appeared humanoid but stretched nearly 8 feet in height, with smooth, pearl-colored skin that seemed to glow with its own inner light. Its features were elegant and alien, with large, dark eyes that held an intelligence far beyond human understanding. Dr. Park Jiwoo, the being spoke, its voice emanating from a small device floating near its chest. The words came out in perfect Korean, though Jiwoo could hear the underlying harmonic tones of an entirely different language. Please do not be alarmed. I am Vex of the Stellar Alliance. Jiwoo's scientific mind raced even as his body remained frozen. First contact, the moment every xenobiologist had dreamed of since humanity first looked up at the stars. Yet here it was happening in his small laboratory, with an alien being who somehow knew his name. "You are real," Jiwoo whispered, his voice barely audible. Vex moved with fluid grace, its elongated limbs flowing like water as it approached. The translation device projected a soft holographic display showing waveforms and linguistic patterns, as real as your courage during today's rest. "We have been observing your species for 73 Earth years. Dr. Park, your colony represents humanity's first successful expansion beyond your home world, making it an ideal location for our evaluation." The alien gestured toward the laboratory windows, where the lights of New Seoul Colony twinkled like earthbound stars. "We have watched your people struggle, grow, and overcome countless challenges, your terraforming achievements, your scientific discoveries, your capacity for both cooperation and conflict. All of it has been documented." Jiwoo found his voice, his scientific curiosity overcoming his shock. "Why reveal yourself now? Why to me?" Vex's large eyes seemed to shimmer with something resembling amusement. "Because your species stands at a crossroads. The Stellar Alliance comprises 47 different civilizations, each committed to peaceful exploration and mutual advancement. We extend membership only to species that demonstrate certain qualities: scientific achievement, moral courage, and the ability to overcome their baser instincts." The alien moved to Jiwoo's workstation, where holographic displays showed his atmospheric research. With a gesture, Vex activated technology that made the human equipment seem primitive by comparison. 3-dimensional star maps appeared in the air, showing vast networks of connected solar systems. "Your research has impressed our scientists," Vex continued. "Transforming dead worlds into living ecosystems requires not just technical skill, but vision for the future. However, technical advancement alone is insufficient for Alliance membership." Jiwoo watched as the star map zoomed in on their current location. Dozens of observation markers surrounded human colonies, each one representing years of alien surveillance. "You have been testing us,"